Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wild Woman podcast. And I have a beautiful wild woman with me today, all the way from the UK. Lovely Grace G. Lacey, love the name. And Grace is a professional psychic medium going back on her mother's side, I think many generations. So I'm just really excited to talk to Grace and just something to say. It's I've been feeling, I think this particular topic for people can often be bring people in different directions, and real curiosity and excitement and then fear and all of this. It's all the unknown. But I feel that is changing so much. It's changing so much in me. There's a really strong calling or connection to spirit and a much greater force, whatever you want to call that in your life. But I see it as my umbilical cord to my life force, to where I came from, to my creator. And it just strikes me that it's so important, I feel, that we sort of reconnect to that, because that's where our power is, and that's where our freedom is, and that's where everything is. So I don't know, I just start by saying that because it's just so I think, yeah, it's just it's a powerful time right now. So welcome, Grace, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for asking me.
You're very welcome. um Can you just start by talking about, because you said, this is a gift really that goes back about, I think, four generations, is it, or a number of generations on your
Mm,
mother's side?
mm.
Can you talk to me about what that has been like, since you were growing up, having that gift within the family from a young
Um,
age?
some people think it's an amazing gift, and it is an amazing gift to have, but it's not always easy. It wasn't easy for my mum, and it wasn't easy, I don't think, for her mum, and it hasn't been easy for me, although I would be lost without it. But it ain't easy, not all the time. It's really
Mhm.
not, because you, you have to really be careful as well, taking on all the energy from all the people that you read from, all the people that you connect with. You have to be really mindful of not picking up the negative of that and holding on to it. So I have like a way of letting it go every day so that I don't carry it on. But um, I don't think my mum and my nan had that ability, because they weren't so connected to their guide to have that. And back in them days, it was people didn't talk about it. Of all the people in my family that have had this ability, I'm the one that's using it, and I'm the one that's having an understanding of it and had some training with it from my guide, and to a college that I used to go to when I was young. So it's not always easy, but it is amazing. And
Yeah.
everyone has it. It's not, some people think, oh, it's a gift, and it is a gift, but it is a gift that I believe we all have. I think
How
we
would
all
you just
have the ability for that.
how sorry, how would you describe that? So that's what I feel. I feel that now that was always there, and
Mm.
it sort of was shut down, like I think you
Yeah.
described. And now it's like, I don't know whether it's because it's safe or just I'm getting older or maturing. I don't know. Or there's a timing. I feel it. And it's like it's knocking on my door all the time. And like you said, I'm not really sure, that's something I want to learn how to navigate that. So how, when you say it's there in everyone, how would you describe, how does that show up for people, or how would you
I think for like you, when the time's right,
okay.
because when I was younger and I had two small children, although I was still psychic, it was difficult to use it to the extent that I can now, because life is life, isn't it? And we've all had busy times in life, and for me, the time when it can really come out is when you've got time.
Okay.
When that's, and spirit will know when it's the right time for you, and they'll come knocking, like you say. I sometimes call it, they've been knocking on my head. as a
Yeah,
way,
that's exactly.
you know. And then there'll be synchronicities. You'll meet the right people. Don't they say something about when it's the right time, the teacher appears, or something like
Yeah,
that?
when the
And
student is
so
ready.
that's it. The teacher will appear. And I know from my students, that's when they kind of meet me, and then they know it's the right time. So I think life will and spirit will guide you to the right time.
Mm, mm,
Because through my life, there was times where I would be using it more than others. You know, when life was difficult with children and partners, and you know, it would take it well, not really a backseat, but it would kind of go quiet for me to be able to deal with life, and then it would grow bigger when I had more time.
mm.
And
That sounds a
so,
lovely, if someone is a little bit, I wouldn't say wary and a little afraid to say, that sounds really reassuring, because I found that with a lot in life as well, with anything, you know, you're given what you're able for. And it's not to,
yes,
not worried about opening the door now. I think I was
yeah,
before, because I know,
yeah,
like you said, it's very gentle, and you're not going to be, well, I
yeah.
don't know. It sounds like you will be given it when you need it, and when it needs
Yeah,
to go
and when
quiet.
you can do it, because you
Yeah.
know, spirit want us to work for them. They want the light to grow bigger, and if they push us, and it all happens at the wrong time, then we're likely to shut the door and maybe not open it. And spirit
True.
don't want that. You know, spirit
Mm,
want us to be able to work for them, to lift the vibration of the whole planet. You know,
mm,
by helping people, giving them messages, guiding them, bringing their loved ones through, to comfort them. They want us to do that. So they
mm.
don't want us to be frightened. And that's why I think that spirit only give us what we can cope with. And that's why they will, like for some people, they will start with vision, and then they kind of get the hang of that. I mean, I'm only going by my students, that's all I can go by.
Sure.
And so they'll be very visual, and then they get the hang of that, and then spirit might bring in um, feelings more, and then they'll get used to that. So then they've got two skills. Whereas if they gave you everything in one go, we'd just get knocked over, wouldn't we? And we wouldn't
Mm,
be able to cope. So
mm.
spirit have got a plan. That's what I believe. And
Yeah.
spirit will have a plan for you. You know, they've been knocking, and you're waking up to it now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. And it feels like certain things that, I don't know, like you just maybe go back a little bit. So as a very young child, like firstly your mother, and you said your nana, like when you say they had this gift, so did they ever consciously say to you, you know, how did you understand that or find that out? Did they say,
Well,
or
I just I just knew, because I used to see things, sense things, know things, and when I would talk about it, I was pretty much shut down, because I I mean, I don't know so much by hearing it, but I know it. They were um, ridiculed. My mum was, for sure. My mum was given electric shock treatment, and and she had a lot of mental health problems. But I really truly believe it was because she was psychic. And I think a lot of mental health problems these days are because of that. And so she suffered. So she didn't want me to develop it at that time. And I didn't really, I didn't develop it in any way until she passed. So,
and
yeah.
did she you I mean, that's so, I feel that too. Feel that a lot of times I met a young guy once, and he was talking about this. I could tell by him. He's an astrologer, and he's
Oh,
only in his 30s, and he said to me that he'd suffered a lot with mental health. And I read something just after I met him somewhere, and it said, "You're not mentally ill; you're multidimensional." And I loved that,
I
and
like
I
that.
sent it to him, and he said, "Oh, thank you. That's really helped, because for so long, and he's still, I could be wrong, he could be in his 20s, but you could just sense that and said, this, now hopefully it's changing, but still there is that.
Yeah, because people are not, nobody thinks I'm mad anymore.
Is that good or bad? I know.
Well, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
When I was young, I kept it quiet.
Mm.
My general family didn't know him probably until I was well into my 30s, because you would just people just thought you were crazy.
Yeah. And did you
And
say things, Grace, like as you were growing up? Did you say, like, I'm sensing this, or how would you,
yeah, I
as a
sort of
very,
used to
yeah,
say, when my mum first passed, it really woke up in me, and
okay.
I would say to my friend things to my friends, and they'd get really frightened. And I was only 11, and they would get really frightened, and so they told me to shut up, to stop. So I did, because obviously didn't want to frighten anyone. So
That must have been very hard, though, as an 11-year-old.
it really was, because I knew what I could see, you know, but I just had to quieten it down until I think I was about 18. And a woman just asked me to go and sit in a circle. I didn't even know what it meant, what it was. But intuitively, I knew to go, and I did, and that's kind of where it started. She taught me a little bit of how to, well, meditate, really, what it was. But through meditation, I went within, and that's when I started to, I suppose, hear the voices, but not in a crazy way. But
I
that's the
know.
thing, see, you say you
Mm.
hear voices, and people back then used to think you were mad.
Yeah. Well, even
Yeah.
still, I suppose, how have you found, so when you went in, I just think maybe, I don't know if it's unique to the UK, but I always seem to hear about it more. I think it's growing here. I think it was a part of the rituals or traditions in Ireland years ago,
Mm.
and they're sort of coming up again, like not underground, but you know what I mean? There's little pockets of people, women and people doing things. Like, has that
Mm.
always been a part? Like you said, you were 18. So was this sort of women sitting in circle, or how would you describe when you say
Um,
in circle?
it wasn't it was like a psychic development circle.
Okay.
Um, and the woman who ran it had some experience, not a huge amount, but she had enough to take us a little way forward. But it wasn't like it is now. Old circles are very different, very strict, very almost religious.
Okay.
You can't do this and you can't do that, and you can't predict anything. And we had to sit for an hour in silence.
Okay.
Um, and then at the end of it, and this was every week for about 4 years. And that's why it taught me to meditate, and how important meditation is, because we had no music, no nothing, pitch dark, and you just there was nowhere else to go but within. But
And
people
what would,
wouldn't, I wouldn't teach like that now,
hmm. What do
because
you think the key to all of this really is connecting with with spirit, that force within you? How
yeah.
for someone who's listening and is maybe very interested, or maybe is starting to wake up in them, or there's something that they're going, no, this isn't crazy, there is more to this. How would you even give a little inkling of what they're connecting with, or a sense of it, so it maybe.
I would say find a meditation, a guided meditation where you can meet your guide.
Okay.
Because for me, my guide's called Ziggy. He's got some big long name that I can't pronounce, so we just decided on Ziggy. Um, and he is the one who I connect with, and he's the one that's brought me. Well, I always say Ziggy brought me up.
Really? From what age do you feel that
From
connection was
11,
first? From
I
11?
think from the beginning of life, but it was really, I first heard his voice when my mum passed. My mum passed in the evening, and the morning I got up went to go downstairs, and this voice said to me, "Don't go downstairs, go back and sit on your bed." And that's what I did. And if I'd have gone, sorry, if I'd have gone downstairs, then I would have found her. And she took her own life. And I think that would have messed me up for all of my life. And so I listened to that voice and went and sat on my bed, and then my dad found her, and then it all went a bit crazy from there, because, there was police and all sorts, because she took her own life. I guess they had to investigate that. But had I not have listened, I don't know, would I have been strong enough to cope with that? I don't know if I would. So that was the first time I heard his voice. And then I suppose life goes a bit crazy after that, didn't it? I was only 11, and I started sitting in circle when I was 18. So for those years, it was a bit weird for me, because I could hear and sense things, but I didn't know what it was or how to, I didn't know anything.
But at the age of 11, I can't imagine like what that must be like, to lose your mother and then to have this also going on that you don't know
Yeah,
what
because I used to close my eyes and see like a tunnel with all these faces, but I didn't know who they were or anything. But it was obviously Ziggy's way of introducing me to being able to visualize, I guess.
Could you talk to anyone at that time about it?
No, because when I did, um, we had a dog, and I knew this dog was pregnant, and I kept saying, "That dog's going to have a baby," and they were going, "What? Don't be ridiculous. It's not going to have a baby." And about, I don't know, a week or whatever later, this dog just had a baby, a puppy, a baby, and um, and everyone was going, "You knew that," but I knew that I knew. But again, they all thought I was a bit crazy. So you just shut up.
What sort of
Because
support had you then, or had you any support
no,
during this
not at
time
all. Well,
until,
Ziggy was it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
even I didn't have a strong connection to him, because I could kind of hear him in my head, but because my mum had had mental health problems, I was too scared to voice that.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, I often wonder if that woman hadn't asked me if I wanted to join this circle. I, I don't know. Maybe I would have just really gone mad in the end.
Mm.
Who knows?
But it sounds like your mother, so your mother never got to really share that gift in a way, did she? In a way that,
No,
no, no.
no. But just there was little things, because my mum passed, but my nan was still here, and she said to me that her mum was psychic, my nan was, and my mum was, but they didn't voice it. And they obviously voiced it between themselves, but not out loud.
And not to you really much, did they?
No,
No.
just that,
Mm.
well, from when my mum died, I have no memories from till 11. No birthdays, no Christmas, nothing. So
Before then.
yeah, before then, nothing. So I just have these little snippets.
Mm.
And I remember my nan saying something about being psychic, or she might not have even used them words. She sort of said they knew things. So
Mm.
I don't know if they even knew what psychic meant, but they certainly weren't practicing in any way at all.
But when you say they knew things, like that to me sounds very still, very knowing, like not doubting it, like we can't talk about it and whatever, but yet
Mm,
we know this. So it still
yeah,
sounds like a very strong, I don't know, core, or sort of that's knowing that's being passed
yeah,
down, and maybe
yeah.
the right time that had to come down through the
Mm,
generations to you for you
Yeah.
to fully be able to
Mm.
understand or embody or use it. And
Yeah.
even with
Yeah.
that tragedy with your
Mm.
mother, it all at the same time, it sounds like, yeah, maybe in this lifetime she wasn't able to. So in some way, it's sort of,
Yeah,
yeah.
I often think she passed so that I could
Mm,
live. Yeah, that
yeah.
yeah, because I don't see how I would have been able to do what I do without being able to open psychically. Well, I wouldn't, would I? Because
Yeah.
if I couldn't be a psychic medium, then
Yeah.
yeah.
Or does that, do you have connection? Do you feel a strong connection with your mother now in spirit?
No, it's really strange. I don't. You would think, wouldn't you, that she would be my guide and everything. It's like I know she's always there, but I don't
Mm.
work with her. But it's like she's a protector, like a yeah, like she's always there, stands behind me.
So you feel that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel
Okay.
that. But I
Okay.
don't work with her, I don't interact with her. It's Ziggy that I do all my
Okay.
work with. Yeah.
Because you said there at the beginning, everybody, this was sort of new to me. I can feel connection with different people who have passed, but you said everybody has a spirit guide they work with. So
Mm.
is that how anyone who wants to connect more in their own life or develop it, you're saying you sort of have to connect first with your
Yes.
spirit guide. Is that it?
Well, that's what I believe.
Okay.
I don't go by what a book says for any of what I do because how can you? We're all individual. So what I do is I teach people. I would use my way as an example, but teach them their way.
Mm,
So I
mm,
would teach you how to connect with your guide, but that's going to be different to how somebody else would, because it just doesn't seem, it's impossible that we can all do everything the same way. We can't, can we?
yeah. No, it'd be a bit boring too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
robots
yeah,
going around, yeah,
yeah.
which we're
So
not.
for somewhere to start, my advice would always be find out who your spirit guide is. So find a meditation for that. And if
Okay.
anyone wants a meditation for that, I can send them mine.
Perfect. Because what we'll do at the end, just for everyone, so you know, I'll be putting up, it'll be on Spotify and YouTube, but I'll put up all of Grace's links and her website and everything, so
Yeah.
you can find out more. But in that, just when you say a spirit guide, is that guide from your experience, are they someone who's walked the earth, or are they a sort of a spirit, how
Well,
would you describe that?
what normally happens is in my experiences, so when you first start to open, just should we just use you
Yeah.
as an
Yes,
example?
please.
So maybe you might meditate, and it could be your grandpa who
Excuse
comes
me.
forward as your
Mm.
guide. Well, spirits say to me that it's very rarely our family members, our guide, but when we are starting out, we we might get a vision or a sense or a knowing of our grandpa. We trust that, don't we?
Mm, mm.
So often people will say, "Oh, my guide is my granddad or my uncle or whoever, someone they were close to," but it rarely is them. It's just spirit will show us that because we understand that, don't we?
Yes, yeah. We won't be so scared, maybe,
We're
or yeah,
comfortable with that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
very rarely is it a family member.
Okay.
In my experience,
Yeah.
you can't talk for everyone, can you? But
No.
that's what Ziggy says to me.
And
Our guide is someone that was assigned to us, if you like, or we chose them, they chose us at our very first life. So Ziggy has been with me through all my incarnations. And I believe that that's the same for everyone. I've seen sometimes, I've read for people and I've got a sense or seen their guide, and because they're not open to it or waking up to it. Their guide is like this. They'll see me one day. Maybe will they see me? So our guides are all there, whether we're connected with them or not.
Yeah.
And
Can you
so
see my guide now?
let me see. I'm just getting a sense. And again, our guides don't have a gender because they're just energy. But because we're human, we like a visual, don't we?
Of course, yes.
So,
Yeah.
so when I see and sense Ziggy, he looks Tibetan, and he calls it his orange frock that he wears. But really, he's energy.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I
And
get,
when I
yeah.
said to him, who are you? He said, he is me and I am him. We're like one. And that's the same, I believe, for everyone. So let's see if, so I'm getting a really soft energy for your guide. It feels feminine. And I'm just, okay, so I'm just getting this sense of love, really. And okay, so the way that you know that she is around is you just get this huge wave of love, and it just comes over you sometimes when you're least expecting it. But if you sit and you meditate, you can feel that. It's like you've got this huge cuddle, and it just feels like love. Do you actually feel that?
Oh, I do. I do. I
Oh,
do.
good.
I do.
Then
I've
that's
often, yeah, I get exactly as you said, a sort of feminine feel, almost, I love the word cherub, but that almost type of,
okay. Because I was kind of getting an angel feeling, but not as
yeah,
in an angel. You
yes,
know, that
yeah,
pure love. That's
yeah,
just what it feels like.
yeah. I feel that too. That's the only word I can find at the moment. It's almost like a little what's the word, a little chubby baby type
Yes.
energy with wings. I don't know, but yeah, it's that feel. I can't push more
Mm.
than that, but that is, and it does come in these waves of just like, oh, a
Yeah.
beautiful
Just
hug, exactly
yeah.
as you
That's
described.
exactly it. So
Mm.
so when you feel that, then you have to know that that's your guide.
Mm.
Yeah, and we're
Mm.
going to do a little bit of work together, aren't we,
We are,
in a
we
couple of
are.
weeks' time?
Yeah, I'm
So
really
it'd be
looking.
interesting
Yeah,
when you do that meditation to meet your guide.
yeah.
Yeah,
And as the student is ready, the teacher appears. I
yeah,
felt that very much
it's
when you
true.
showed up, because I had
Mm,
been asking, what do I do with this next? Because I feel it, and it seems to me from what you're describing, and again for anyone listening, that the more we sort of, I suppose it's like a friend, the more you're not going to develop this relationship unless you sort of spend time with them, you know.
exactly.
Because often it's like, okay,
Yeah.
prove to me you're real, but
Mm,
who would you say that to a person? Prove to me you're a friend, and yet not give them any time or
yeah,
attention.
yeah,
It's sort of it feels like that's the same thing,
yeah.
except we have
You
to
have
trust in
to,
something
and the
unseen.
best way to do that is through meditation.
Okay, excuse
It
me.
really is. Yeah,
Okay.
best way is through meditation. And people say, I mean, I don't know about other people, but me, ain't much more than 15 minutes of meditation and I'm nodding off. So,
Yeah,
to me, if
yeah.
you can just do a small amount every day.
Okay. And there is a guide. You said there is one, because I know everybody, we're all the same, and we can have this monkey mind and be busy and stressed. So I suppose, is this, when you even mentioned there, I suppose a type of guided one is good, is it? Or do you just
Yeah,
suggest
I
they
think
sit?
to start with,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, to
yeah,
start with, because that helps to quieten your mind.
yeah,
It's very
yeah,
difficult to do silent meditation when you've got a busy head.
yeah, absolutely.
And so, if you start with guided meditation, it can kind of train you to quieten your mind a bit because you're listening to that.
Yeah. And can I ask you, Grace, as well, when just on that topic, what it feels to me, the reason, and maybe I don't know if it's the same for you, the timing of when this is happening for me feels around a time I've been over the years clearing and maybe releasing grief, or it just feels it the more I'm clearing out sort of very stagnant energy and grief or
Yeah.
things I don't even know are there.
Mm.
It's like as that is sort of emptying out, something else is coming in. It's like,
Yeah.
so the more it again, this to me is a very supportive way of looking at it for ourselves, is that there is something beautiful when you start to grieve and allow what isn't
Mm.
really you go,
Mm.
who you really are can start to
Yeah,
really come in. Is that
absolutely.
how, because that's the
Yeah.
feeling I have, and it's a very empowering, strong, it's got a courage to it. It's got so much that it is who we are. And
Mm.
we've believed we're none of this, and
Mm.
yet we are. It's
Yeah.
just,
We
if
all of
anything
that.
is, yeah, how would you, for you as well, because you've been through a lot of grief and you've
Mm.
been through a lot in your life, has that,
Yeah.
do you seen that shift with your own gifts? Like,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know,
mm,
when I was young and the kids were little, I'd plateaued for some years, and then all of a sudden, the older they got and the more independent they became, the more space there was for me, and so I I grew spiritually with my understanding and and with my ability, and just last year. Like, I hadn't grieved for my mum until last year. So I spent 6 months crying over all of the things that didn't serve me anymore. And, you know, all the crappy relationships and all the shit that we go through. Just for the last 6 months of last year, I just cried and I let go of so much. But it where that made a space, then there was space for me to grow spiritually. So you're always growing and you're always learning. And the more you can let go of, the more space there is for you to grow. So, yeah, what you're saying is absolutely true. And for me, a huge shift. Like, for
really?
instance, the other day, a lady came for a reading, and I said to her, "Oh, I can hear the phone." And she looked at me strange. And I said, oh, okay. So we carried on. And then I heard the phone ringing again. And she said, I said to her, "Can you hear the phone?" And she said, "No." And then her mum said to me, who'd passed, her mum said, at the minute her mum passed, the phone rang. And I said to the lady, "Your mum's telling me that when she passed, the phone rang." And she said, "Yeah, but I actually heard it in
Right.
the room." And I've heard like that a little bit, but that is part of the growth that I had. So I can actually hear outside of me. And the lady didn't know that I thought that was amazing, but I did. I
Sounds
really
pretty
did.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah.
next day, another lady came for a reading a couple of days later, and I could hear like a bumblebee, you know, when they're in the corner and they're making that noise. And I said to her, "Oh, there's a bee." And she looked at me, and I said, I heard it again. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to have to get it." But there was no bee. But she said to me that there'd been loads of bumblebees around her house recently. But I actually heard it in the room. So that might not sound amazing to many people, but for me, I know it was a step forward, a step up. I've not been able to hear like that before.
Wow. And so do you think that that growth, so the growth, it's just something that's really, I'm just feeling it in the air and in myself, this about grief. I don't know why, it just keeps coming up. And I don't know, is it that, like what you said, it is grief that, yes, it's a necessary process that we have to
Mm,
go through. And although it came up with a previous guest I interviewed as well, that it's a process, it's not easy, and most of us, just out of survival, we push all this down.
yeah.
But it's like it's what prevents us from fully
Yeah,
understanding who we are.
yeah,
Is that
for
like, I'm
sure.
just,
Yeah.
I never realized it to that extent. I just thought, yeah, but I'm noticing it's almost happening at the same time. The more I grieve, something else switches on.
Mm,
The more something else leaves, another switch goes on, and
mm.
it's like that. So I
But
think,
it's
yeah,
grieving and it's growing as well, isn't
grieving
it?
and growing. Yeah, that's a
Because
really good way to put it.
that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what happened to me. The more I grieved, the more I grew. And
Wow.
now I've stopped crying, thank God.
Yeah.
And now it's like um, my gifts, for want of a better word, are
Wow.
now growing
Uh-huh.
because there's space within me for that. So
Mm,
I do believe that. But you know, that doesn't have to happen in a huge grief, does it?
mm.
Because just say, for instance, you're with a partner who's um,
Excuse me.
abusing you. So you get rid of that and you get over that. That's huge. So you've got a space, haven't you?
Yes.
But at the same time, if I don't know, you don't have a good relationship with your mum and you're arguing and you stop arguing, that leaves a space as well.
Mm,
Do you see what I mean? So it doesn't
yes.
have to be a
Mm,
6 months like it was for me. It could be the tiniest thing. Your boss is pissing you off and then they leave. So that leaves a gap, don't it?
yeah. Yeah. That's
Doesn't
so,
have to
yeah.
be a huge healing. It can be
Yeah.
something quite small that you let go of in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really help. Yeah. Rather than thinking, oh my God, I have to have this huge breakdown. And and
No.
so, yeah, and so maybe we do, maybe we don't, but isn't it what you've said there really is, I feel is just so helpful. Particularly, I had this again a conversation with someone, I think it was a previous guest, and they said sometimes when people come to them with grief, they just feel like they've landed into this place of darkness, they've lost their connection to anything of light,
Mm,
and it's like, I'll never come out of this. So I know, and depending what it is, it can be big and it can be small. But just even to know, as you said there, that even at the back of your mind, grief, grief is about, I just feel grief and growth is a lovely way to look at it together.
mm,
And then growth and your gifts, so there is,
mm,
this isn't some sort of, um, there's a whole purpose behind
mm.
all of this, isn't it? There's a
Yeah, yeah,
greater force
yeah.
that's sort of,
Because
um,
spirit want us to help, want us to be able to help people shift the vibration of the whole planet in whatever way that is, in the way I do, in the way you are. You know,
mm,
it really doesn't matter as long as we're all trying to work for the good of all of us, of everyone, of ourselves, of
you
our
said at the
neighbours, of
beginning,
our
sorry, great. It was just
no.
exactly what you said a little while back, and I wanted to ask you exactly that spirit really just wants us to bring in more light, that we are light and to
Mm,
be more light. Is that like, that seems to be sort of a big umbrella purpose
yeah,
for all of us? Is that,
yeah.
if someone was saying, I don't know what I'm here for, I don't know, I'm lost, like, is that through finding your connection as well to your guide, is that you will be shown how that is to
I
happen? Is that
believe
what
that.
you would say?
Yeah,
Or how would,
yeah, and it doesn't matter what job you do if you're doing if you're doing the best you can, and it isn't really about saying, I'm going to go out and help people, is it? It's about doing what we do quite naturally and naturally helping and shifting the vibration. Sometimes the more effort you put in, the harder it is.
mm,
If you're quite
mm,
natural with the way you are and you've got an intention, and especially if you love, I mean, you love what you're doing, so
mm,
that is going to spread the word, and it's going to spread the love. I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, but it
mm,
really is. To me, it's all about love,
yeah.
loving each other in all the different ways there are to love someone. You know.
Mm, mm. And it feels like a love. Would you say it's not, it's not this sort of romantic, oh, I'm in love with someone and my heart was broken. How I experience it now, what I do is a more it's like this opening to, yeah, that inside, like it's almost what makes you feel, it's very natural. I suppose that's the word when you say it's sort of a natural, innate quality that when we clear a lot of things out, this
Yeah,
sort
but
of
that's it.
lights up again,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Because if we take away all the crap of society and all of that, we are just love, aren't we? And
Mm,
that's who we truly, really are.
mm,
And so if we're spreading that and sharing that with whether that's someone in the supermarket queue or a student or someone you're doing a podcast with, you're still
mm,
doing it, aren't you? Whatever way you're doing it, still
mm.
doing it.
Yeah, because I've heard people say, different things. Just one example on the love. I can remember one, the usual, we all give examples of traffic because the road rage and the traffic, which it's never about. But even that one day I was driving and I came to a light and it almost looked like I wouldn't stop. And there was a guy going to walk across and I saw him, like he looked so angrily at me and I was about to be, go back with the anger to him, like, what were you doing? And something just said no. So I stopped and I waved at him and I smiled. And he sort of, because he'd been all ready to go back more
Yeah.
anger with me. He was sort
Mm.
of looking at me for ages. And then I kept smiling at him. And he walked across the road and he looked at me like I was crazy. Like, because I didn't respond out of this
Yeah.
anger.
Yeah.
And I keep, it seems that we're in this effort to spread love, or, the way the world is and all the wars and everything. We still, there seems to be, I don't know, there's different ways, I suppose, of looking at this. I've heard people going, well, yeah, they're the bad people and we need to sort of, we go back in anger, which sometimes can come up on us, but it just seems to perpetuate it as
Yeah.
opposed to,
It just grows it, don't it? I mean, and anything you put any effort into grows.
yeah,
So if you'd have responded with anger to him, it would have grown.
yeah,
Whereas you responded with love, and it couldn't go anywhere, could it?
no. And I would hope, my feeling is, I'm not saying I do that all the time, it just something made me do that, because some days I'm in my own, something said, he might go on now and do something nice for somebody else. Maybe he'll smile
Exactly.
where he might have roared at them.
You certainly
Um,
shifted the energy, didn't you?
yeah, yeah. It is how powerful we are, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, we really are.
yeah. How
Really
would
are.
you describe, Grace, what's going on now? We hear like evolution, we're going through evolutionary times, and you've talked about the frequency rising on the planet. And, some people will really get that, and then others may not. They may just go, God, the world is chaotic. It's crazy. I don't
Yeah.
know. Is this something you want to answer, or Ziggy, or how to sort of maybe, yeah, talk a little bit about that for people that can be supportive or helpful in the crazy times we're in?
Um, I just get a strong sense that it's all we can do is do what we're doing. Just trying to keep lifting the vibration. Try not to get into arguments. That's a perfect example that you did. You changed that energy. You know, if we could all, if someone was angry towards us and we could let that go and send them love, that would shift everything, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It really
Mm-hmm.
would. It really would. And the more people that I help, and the more people that you're helping, and the more people that listen to this, the more that will spread. And that is all we can do, isn't it? Really? I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to do other than what I'm guided to
Mm.
do. And you're
Yeah.
guided to do what you're doing.
Mm.
If everybody opens up a bit spiritually, they'll discover that within themselves, won't they?
Yeah. That seems to be, I feel, where we're at now, that it is like, we can talk about it in all sorts of ways, astrologically and everything, in the age of Aquarius and this and that and all these things happening, but it is there is a shift in frequency in the planet. Like, it's been
Yeah,
measured, isn't it? This
yeah,
isn't just some airy fairy. It is real, and we're
yeah,
feeling it, because I feel it physically.
yeah, yeah.
I know some people maybe don't, and we're all in different ways, and maybe that's just who we are, and maybe it's what's going on inside.
Mm,
I feel it's all connected back to, you know, what you said, connecting more spiritually. It's hard if you haven't, I suppose, not hard. I would have found I was so lost for years and disconnect. I don't even know what the words are, but like what you said,
yeah,
I felt nothing. Maybe I was numb, and I anesthetized myself through alcohol and any distraction I could find,
mm,
because I felt such emotional pain.
mm,
And I didn't even understand why. Like, that was even, it wasn't even I could point to something. It was, well, it was one or two things, but it just
yeah,
felt, but it's like nearly you have to be touched by love to be able to then know that that's what you can
mm,
radiate out. I don't know. Like, I felt
yeah,
I've been touched by it, so I feel it.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
nearly has to, doesn't it? It's like a little flower. Something has to crack
Mm.
that open in you.
Yes, that's it.
Mm.
So I have different groups of students, and the last lot, they finished their 6 months, and on the last one, um, we went out into nature, and we were using nature as a way to read for each other. And then we came back and had some lunch, and I said, all right, we're going out again. And someone said, I'm surprised you haven't had us hugging trees. And I went, because that's what we were going to do. And this one lady said, I just don't think I can do it. And I said, why? And she went, because, well, it's in a public place, people might see. And I said to her, well, look, okay, so you might not be able to full on hug the tree and make that connection, but put your hand on the tree. How about that? And anyway, we all sort of found a tree, and we were doing some tree hugging, and she finished, and she said, oh my God, she felt such an amazing connection. And she truly felt the love from that tree. So that's, there's so many different ways to do it and to feel it. And
Mm.
for her in that moment, you could see in her face, she was so shocked. She did not think she would get that much of a sense of love from a tree. And so that's how it can happen, isn't it? In
Yeah.
all different
Yeah.
ways.
And
You
maybe
know,
through children. Like, I haven't had children, but I always now, if I see a child, it's like, oh my God, I could just feel this love. Or an animal. Like, I never had that. I never felt it strongly, probably because, again, I was quite shut down. Excuse me. Sorry, I just have the end of a cold tonight, so I'm sorry to be sniffling. If someone is feeling very like that, very shut down on themselves, and maybe really sad and very just like in that dark place, how would you suggest, even if they can, like, I know we can, reach out and talk to people, is there something that they can do that can help that process, I suppose, of opening up to love? Or do you just need to let what's going through go through? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
a difficult one, I suppose,
mm,
because we're all so different. But for me, nature does it,
mm,
being in nature. And you don't have to go to the woods and hug every tree, and, just being outside, being under the sky, that can shift so much, can't it?
yeah, I
I
can.
believe it
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, really, talking about stuff is a really good way, isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah,
if you can't talk to friends, then places like, I don't know, I've never spoken to them, but like the Samaritans, someone who's
yeah,
completely
yeah,
separate from you.
yeah, yeah,
Talking is a really good way to
yeah.
shift stuff, and
It's
Ziggy calls it shit shifting.
shit shifting. I like that. Yeah,
So for
yeah.
me, I'll go to a gong bar for a sound shower, or all the different things like that. That's what I tend to do. But not everybody has access to stuff like that, do they?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but nature will do it.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, so
Always, yeah.
I talk to Ziggy, but there's God, Jesus, the universe, so much.
Mm,
But it's
mm,
hard. I truly, honestly can't imagine not having anyone, because I've been lucky to always
mm.
have someone, and I've always got Ziggy. And so again, it goes back to, if you can find out who your guide is and build a relationship with them,
That's a
because
beautiful,
they're there
yeah.
for you 100% of the time, always. And it's no, I have a really strong relationship with Ziggy, but so can everybody else. I'm not special in any way. I've just put a lot of effort and a lot of belief into Ziggy.
But it also sounds like you came in from a specific line with the gift so that you could teach others
Mm.
connect with this in themselves, because there'll be other people going around with other gifts. Like we're all, it's like if we're all, to me, it's like a remembering. Would you describe it like that almost? It's like a remembering who we are. And it's like every now and again, we're nudging each other going, you can
Yeah,
do this will help you,
yeah,
and this
that's
will
it.
help you.
Because,
So you have a
yeah,
very specific gift that you came with, and that's, we all came with different gifts. I know what you're saying, that we all have access, but the fact that you had this very active from a very young age and from a long line, it's obviously part of your purpose is,
yeah,
as you said, this has been your
yeah,
work, really, hasn't it?
yeah. And that's passed on into my children,
Yes, you said
because,
that's, yeah.
yeah, they're all they're both they're both psychic mediums. They don't practice, but they can, and they use it in a different way in their work. Um, it's hard. It's hard to describe, really, because one of my daughters is a manager, um, for the council. Um, but she's also a registrar, so she'll register births and deaths. And her understanding of spirituality, if you like, comes across in her understanding of someone registering the death of their grandpa, because she obviously has a lot of compassion because she understands that. So although she's not practicing as in giving this person a message, in her empathy, she's doing it.
Mm,
Does that
it
even make sense?
does, absolutely. Well, it's all energy in a way, isn't it? And it's the
Yeah,
sense you get. I've often found the greatest wisdom or help or support I've got could have been going into a shop and someone will just say something.
yeah,
I'm not putting that down or
yeah,
anything. I'm just saying, in the most
yeah,
unlikely situation, someone just passes a comment and you go
yeah.
away and it's
But
changed my
yes,
life.
that's really true. But because you're open, you
Mm,
get it. Somebody who isn't open doesn't even hear that.
mm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
But
But they might
but
feel
when
it, you're
you're,
saying.
yeah, if you're meditating, connecting to your guides, or even open to this way of life, you're going to hear that message, because there's a message in everything, isn't there?
Yeah. Constantly, all the time, in
All the
every
time, yeah.
moment. I know. It's like
But
it's
there's so
amazing.
many people that don't get that. But when
Mm.
you're open, you get it. So spiritually, you can grow.
Yeah. And maybe people like your daughter, I'm just thinking about it, these sort of gifts have to, like you said, and we're all different. Not everybody's going to go on this path. And maybe a lot of people, some people will never listen to an interview like this. Maybe they will. I don't know. I suppose everybody's at a different timing and stage of their own growth and evolution. But that the fact that your daughter is in, you know what I mean? It's like it's needed that those people are not necessarily going to go to a psychic medium, but we all
No,
need, everybody who's full of love, got in that sort of vibration. It needs to be dotted around everywhere,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
don't they?
because
Everywhere. There's no.
exactly. Not everyone's
Mm,
going to come for a reading, are they? But
yeah.
someone who might be listening to this podcast or going to register the death of their grandpa will meet my daughter and get some sense of love from her. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
maybe that wakes that up in them because,
Yes.
doesn't it? It's what's
Yeah.
woken up in me is through the love I received, and it was often from people who didn't even,
Mm.
maybe I wouldn't have thought of, but
Mm.
something. So it's the human connection with each other. It's
Yeah,
that sort of, isn't it?
yeah.
It's
Well, it was like the guy on the crossing,
yeah, yeah,
you
really,
showed him love, and like you say, he might have gone into a shop and not normally smiled at the cashier, but smiled at her. And
yeah,
then she's not normally smiled at, so she might go home and talk to her next door neighbour and smile at her. So just from you, that
yeah.
has spread.
Well, hopefully, but I think we're all doing that. That's what I was
Mm.
told nearly. I could feel it.
Yeah.
You have a choice here. And it was showing me
Mm.
like a ripple effect of everything. So
Yeah.
everything we
Yeah.
do, and I have to still remember that it's not just that one interaction. It's however I interact is going to go on and on and on and on.
Mm.
And it's rippling, rippling, rippling,
Yeah.
rippling. And it nearly feels sort of back to not the question, but what's happening in the world is, well, if we look out there, that's the ripple effect of how we are all
Yeah.
um projecting, not projecting, but our energy, like what are we
Mm.
putting out in the world? As you said, it grows.
Yeah.
So it just feels a very strong message for me right now. We can keep talking about who's right and who's wrong and who's good and who's bad, and they're bad and I'm good. It doesn't matter
No.
unless it just doesn't, it's not going to change anything. We've seen it down through centuries, and
Yeah.
it's not going to change that
Yeah.
way. And it's
But it can
challenging.
change this way,
Yeah,
can't it?
can.
It
Yeah.
really can.
And it sounds so, I know the Gandhi line, be the change you want to see, and all of these things are so clear, but I've seen it because it's like you feel it, what's going on in the collective, I think as well, you experience individually in your life. And I find that, and it's fine. It's like spirit saying to me, okay, you think all of this war and it's all whatever terrible, but look at your own life. Where are you responding in love or responding in anger? Because that's really just what's perpetuating what's out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
isn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the work that you're doing, and just to me, and like your daughter is just so important, isn't it? Like, is there a bigger, for people who come to you now, so you work, obviously this is your work, and you teach, again, for anyone who wants to reach out to Grace, but do you feel for all the clients, and you've obviously been, I mean, I'm sure you've seen thousands of clients, have you, down through the
Yeah.
years, of all sorts,
Yeah. Loads.
in person and in Zoom. Is there a
Yeah.
shift or a change or in what's going on or what's coming through or what people are asking about?
There's a huge change in the fact that people are coming forward for teaching, and it isn't just people don't want to be taught so that they can go and do reading. Some do, but most people, that's why I call it psychic development and development circle, because people want to develop their own self.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? They want to
Yes.
shift and change within their self to make their life better so that they can make the people around them lives better. It isn't just about learning to be a psychic medium.
Yeah.
It's so much more.
Yeah.
So much. And I've seen the biggest shift I would say I've seen is men. I have so many male students, and
Right.
even women who've sat in circle previously will come and go, there's so many men, and it's
Ah,
really shifting
that's
them.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And so that's quite a new development that men are
Oh,
coming.
definitely. Definitely. I would say in the past 3 years, it's really growing for men. It's like that spiritual, softer side to them is starting to come out. And my students are scaffolders, lorry drivers, people that are in the RAF. These are men,
Yeah.
and they're happy. They hold their hands up and say, yeah, I love doing this.
Wow. But it sounds like I'm noticing this in everything, that anyone who is very connected, just very grounded in themselves, not claiming to be spiritual or anything, but just very like that with men as well. We're very in their masculine. It's like there's an openness to if the feminine energies of like arising on the planet, like which it feels they are, that sort of intuitive, instinctive sort of that's why I call the podcast that, because I could feel it in myself. But it's not just rising in women, it's rising in everyone. So if a man, it just seems to me, it's right, if a man has been very much in his masculine, as in he's owning that energy, he's open to the energy shifting in him. Do you know what I mean? Is that, or I don't know, or you know, if people, we've all been so conditioned, and I was living in this very masculine way for years out of sort of very survival mode. It just feels like things are I don't know, recalibrating a bit, maybe. I don't know how.
I've definitely
You
noticed
know,
that. And the
yeah.
amount of men that will come for readings now has changed a lot as well.
That's
Whereas
good.
they
Yeah.
just didn't come before, but they do now.
But that's a really
Yeah.
big shift, isn't it? That is really
Yeah,
good to
really big
see.
shift.
And
Yeah.
I've noticed that as well. I went into a drumming circle, and I haven't really been in, I know there's different types of circles, but just it was like a workshop. And there was quite a few men that I didn't expect to see. And
Yeah.
the people who were facilitating it and the other circle I go to are all men. So it's lovely. I don't know if that's from the drumming, but there's something really nice in how that's how that's evolving, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely
Yeah.
shifted.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, in
And
a really good way.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to share, or Ziggy wants to share with us now, just about, I don't know, advice for people? Or I think you've shared a lot, but is there something in particular he might want to bring in to say to people?
He just says it just keeps shifting your shit.
Keep shifting your shit.
No, it,
Oh, I
it,
recognize that one.
it,
Yeah.
and I'm just getting a sense as advice for people to help shift the vibration, to make the whole vibration of the earth, of the world, of all the people higher, is to just keep working on ourselves. Just do as much work as we can, going within and shifting stuff, having an understanding that, try not to react to what people do. Try to just stay in your power, really. And as I look at women as I'm talking, I just see women getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's because of going within, but as well as a force, as a joining together of women, of literally the more women gather together, the stronger they will be for themselves, but to help other people. You know, women are strong and they're getting stronger. I just feel like women are growing and getting stronger all the time, but on their own, but with other women as well. And the things that you're doing with these podcasts will be inspiring so many women who think they can't, they can. They really
Yeah.
can. They can just get stronger all the time. And like we said a little while ago, it doesn't have to be a huge shift. It can be a teeny tiny one. And then the next week, another one and another one and another one. But we all need each other for that, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we all need ourselves as well. So it doesn't have to be, like we said, you can be in the supermarket. You could say to a woman, your hair looks really nice. And that can change everything for her, can't it? Because she could have got up in the morning and thought, I look like a bag of shit today. I look crap. And then someone says something like that, and it just can change everything. And that, again, is like sharing the love, isn't it? But just complimenting someone.
I think
Make
it's a
the
big
biggest
shift in
difference.
women. Isn't it? This
Yes,
more
huge.
collaborative. Like I feel that so strongly that I was nearly encouraged to compete all my life and in work and and I'm like, no, no, our power is in how we collaborate and see each other's beauty and
Yeah,
gifts. There's nothing like when you really see it, there's nothing to like, what are we competing about? What? There's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
to compete. How
No.
could you? It doesn't even make sense to me anymore. Like,
Mm.
it just doesn't. How could it? We're all so different. Well,
Yeah,
we're just
yeah. And the stronger women get, and then they have children or grandchildren or their friends' children and passing it to them, and girls growing strong and empowered. That's what we need as well, don't we? Because they're going to be the ones that are going to take it to the next level in the next generation. So if we
mm,
teach children to be strong,
mm. And it's
then
that inner, I suppose that will be different, as you said. I know there's loads of different ways shifting your shit, but it's, and finding the way to do it, I suppose, that works for you, because I've often
yeah,
heard people say, but I don't know how. And I suppose a lot of the things you talk about, the meditation, going to someone,
mm,
what can I ask you as well? I don't know if you said this, Grace, but someone said it to me. Yes, it's great to go and talk to a therapist or talk to whoever and talk to a friend, and that
mm,
is all really good. But at the same time, and I've experienced this, the energy has to shift out of your body. You're a
mm,
physical vessel on this earth, and it's held there. It's not held in your head, and it's not held in
mm.
your, well, it can be, I suppose, in your thoughts, but it physically, and someone said, I don't know if you said this, something about it has to go through your heart and your eyes.
Yeah, it was
Did you
my
say that?
kinesiologist.
Hmm?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
kinesiologist
I
said
love that.
when, with all my crying, she said emotion can only leave your body through your heart and out of your eyes.
I love that. I've never,
And
since you said that to me, I just was like a light bulb
yeah, and it
of
was when she said it to me, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Because how else can emotion come out? Because I
yeah.
suppose you could say you could wee it out, but that's not emotional, is it?
Mm,
Crying is an emotion.
yeah.
It's letting it out.
So running, I know all these things are good, and exercising, they're all great, but I still feel that you can be doing that, but you're still just, really what you're doing is just keeping a lid on what's there. And it's
Because
like,
it's still in, isn't it?
yeah.
Like
So it's like
I say,
you're sort of tempering it down a bit, like you've turned down the boiling water a little, and it's keeping it there, but it hasn't released it. So you're in this
yeah,
cycle of, if I don't run every day, I'm going to explode,
yeah,
which,
yeah.
you can be doing both. It's not to say those are not good things to do, but I
Mm,
think it still keeps you very, the word I use is sort of controlled or limited or disempowered, because your power is given to, if I don't do this, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm no good, which
yeah,
is not the truth at all.
yeah,
It's like, just shift the shit, as you said.
yeah, yeah. That's Ziggy's thing. Shift
Yeah,
some shit, and it
yeah,
is by crying. It's a release, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
is. I'm
yeah.
sure somebody said to me at a women's circle that they scientifically tested tears and found that there was evidence of emotion in the tears.
Oh my
How the
God.
hell they
Yeah.
did that, I have no idea. But
Well, but if you look at all the research that's done, I would say to anyone, I've just started looking into it more. Vida Austin, the woman in New Zealand who's done all of this work researching water and consciousness and emotions, and
okay.
that Dr. Emoto in Japan, and it's shown, she has evidence, like you can watch, there's a brilliant interview. I might put the link here as well, that someone shared with me, and she came across it accidentally. And she sort of, one example was, I think, just say she was looking at the water, and whatever emotion or whatever she was thinking or feeling, when she froze the water, I think that's when you freeze the water, you start to see the sort of, is it a very like harmonious pattern that comes up in the
Mm,
water, or is it a very, if it's quite a harsh energy or hatred, it is all this other pattern. And this is,
okay.
we are 90%, I think they say, molecules of water. So
Mm,
like what you're describing, how the tears, like it's all seems to be, it
mm,
seems that, to me, what I'm discovering, grief is, that's why grief is such a huge important part of this. If you
mm.
start to understand that we're all water, and
Yeah,
tears, how we move this out of us
yeah,
is through, as you said, tears, or the other way, but to feel it through the heart, that
yeah,
must shift the structure of the
yeah. It
water in
has
your
to
body.
pass through the heart and out of
Yeah,
the.
yeah. There's
And
something
don't we all
very,
feel
yeah.
better when we've had a cry?
Oh my God, amazing. I mean, you can
Mm.
be exhausted. I did. I won't well finish in a few minutes because I know people I could talk to you forever. And then what happens is I suppose when people see a big long pot, they'll go, oh my God. But no, it's always you can dip in and out of conversations, which is what I love to do as well. But just to share, I was in a circle as well last weekend. I went to what is known as a keening. Don't know if you've heard of keening in Ireland, comes from the Irish language ban cuinche, the crying woman. And it was an
Oh,
ancient thing that women from, other generations, St. Bridget brought it to Ireland. I didn't know this. St. Bridget of the
okay.
Bridget's Cross. In England, I think you'd probably call it wailing, or but it's a way
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
clearing. And I've
Oh.
never been to one. And I'm going to interview this woman. She will come on at some stage as well. She's a shaman. So we were in a small circle and it was so new to me. But I felt this. This is going to be just the power and the
Mm.
power of it, because it was it collectively, but it was also, she encouraged us to wear a shawl over our head. So you're in your own energy. And through
Mm.
the drumming, connecting with Mother Earth, and however she sort of did that, it brought us into this almost way, like it was a really, but it was a grief, but it was like this empowering, like this cry of the, it was
Mm.
beautiful. You could feel, she said the indigenous Indian people even joined us, like this really tribal, you could feel like what you're saying, women, and as well, I think women coming into their power. This is not putting down men or anything. It's like you said, men are coming in, but also I think when women embody more of the feminine energy, it allows men to really step into their masculine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like there's sort of this knock, and it's not
Mm.
like, oh, it's not feminism in that way we were sort of led to believe. It's very
Mm.
different. It just feels so. Yeah. On that note, anything else you want to say, Grace? If people want to reach out to you, you offer classes, I know, and readings. What is the
Yeah,
best way through your website?
best way through the website or Facebook. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Oh,
and if anyone wants the, I don't really know. I've got a meditation to meet your spirit guide. Is all I've got. It is on WhatsApp, but
okay.
I can send it to
Yeah.
anyone. If anyone messages me, I'm happy I'm happy to share it with them.
Okay. Yeah, whatever way you want to do it. I can also add it to the description box, but maybe it's better to keep it's
Oh yeah,
yours. Well, only if you want. I mean, it is your
yeah. I just
meditation,
don't.
so
I'm just not very technical. I don't know how to put it
yeah.
there.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it after, and we'll make sure I can
Okay.
do that. Or if you want to keep it and have people contact you directly, that's perfect too. But please do. Thank you, Grace. I really, really appreciate your time and your gifts.
Thank you.
I'm sure anyone listening or watching, you'll feel what I feel and what I felt when I first spoke to Grace. And it's just magical that through her gifts that she's come here with, it sort of is activating. I think that's what it feels like. It's sort of a beautiful, that connection of love is activating it in me, and I hope in everybody, because this
Oh,
is the way forward. There is no
for
other
sure.
way, isn't
There's
there
no
not?
other
There
way.
is no other way
No
than through
other
love.
way. Gotta be,
No,
isn't it? Love is
yeah,
all there is. It's yeah,
it's the only
yeah.
thing that's true, isn't it?
It absolutely. It is the only thing that's true. Yeah, I agree. Mm.
So, in love, let's spread the love. Thank you all for listening, for watching, and do reach out to Grace for an appointment, or I know you do in person and in Zoom. So, wherever you are in the world, she'd be happy to talk to you. The busy woman that she is.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've
Thank
had
you.
such a good time.
Me too.
Namaste.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Namaste. Thank you so much,
Thank
Grace.
you.